Hello everyone, it's John here from Gaming in the Wild with another month ahead look at the video games that are coming out in July of 2025. And it's a pretty wild month of indie releases, from an insane Japanese rhythm battler to a deeply haunted card game to a gritty pixel art pulp sci-fi point and click. Try saying that 3 times. So I hope you find something here that you hadn't heard of before, something you want to try out and play yourself. As always, your likes are appreciated to help other people find the videos. Let me know in the comments if I've missed something that you're excited about. You can sub to the channel for more videos like this in your feed, and I'll tell you about the Patreon at the end. And with that, let's go. You know when we get an indie game that's a big success and then a few years later we get a generation of follow-ups from people who liked the idea but thought they could take it further or wanted to add to it themselves? I think that's why we end up with waves of games that are a little bit like Stardew Valley or Slay the Spire, Hollow Knight or Hades. And this being the case, I sometimes wonder what kind of new games will come in the wake of the games that I really love, the indie games that were a big success in their own way. Like what kind of games will come in the wake of award-winning titles like Immortality or 1000 Times Resist or Inscription? Well, we might be getting the answer to that last one on the 10th of the month when Occlude comes out. It's a creepy card game based on the rules of Solitaire. It was made by a 5-person development team called Tributary Games, and while it looks like a fairly traditional card game, it's anything but. We see in the trailer that it includes divining cards like tarot as well as playing cards, and the Steam page says that it's a ritual disguised as Solitaire with rules that are hidden and found by playing and experimenting. And I think games of that description can go either way for me. Inscription really blazed a trail for that formula. It led the player carefully into the meta puzzle and the greater mystery of the game. But then we also have games like Cultist Simulator, the occult card game that was interesting but ultimately way too esoteric to be fun. So I'm very interested to see what Occlude will bring to the table. We'll get to divine the truth when it comes out on Steam on July the 10th. My next game is a multiplayer game, and I'm not much of a multiplayer kind of guy. I play games partly to relax my mind away from social circumstances, but I still like to stay on top of what people are enjoying, and I can even be tempted in now and then when a game like Helldivers 2 appears on the scene. With that in mind, I've had one eye on Mycopunk. It's a 4-player co-op shooter that's coming out in early access this month, and it's being published by Devolver, who tend to support quality projects. It was very well received during its public Next Fest demo when over 120,000 people hopped in. In this game, players play as rejected robot employees who are dumped on a toxic fungal planet. You have to work together to stay alive, to gather resources and get back to the hub where you can invest your stuff in getting stronger and so forth. It's a familiar grindy loop that definitely works for some people, especially when the gameplay is there to back it up, and early reports say that Mycopunk has just the kind of emergent multiplayer chaos that makes these games pop off. That said, the highway is littered with the burning wrecks of multiplayer failures and flashes in the pan lately. It's pretty brutal out there, so best of luck to Mycopunk when it launches into early access on the 10th. On the 16th of the month, we get Worship. This is an interesting looking cult simulator with an anarchic kind of look and feel. At first glance, it looks like a mashup between something like Haunty and Cult of the Lamb, with the monochrome art style of the former and the cult building gameplay focus of the latter. But look a bit closer and you'll see that there's something else going on. There is a Pikmin-like feel to how your swarm of cultists follow you around, and you can use them in different ways, including some multiplayer elements as well. And it seems to have some other elements baked in too, like top-down action-adventure gameplay and roguelike progression, and that's a lot of ingredients thrown at the wall. So I'll be very curious to see if Worship can cohere all of those tenets into its own doctrine and gather a flock of its own when it releases on Steam on the 16th of July. Next up is The Drifter, which comes out a day later on the 17th of July. I played this one during Next Fest, and I was very impressed all round by its gritty, modern-feeling take on the point-and-click genre. In this game, you play as the titular drifter who arrives back in their hometown to find out something very dark is going down. Homeless folks are being snatched from the streets, and you become embroiled in discovering what's going on. You have to untangle the mystery, find clues, talk to people, and try to avoid being snatched yourself. This game has really nice pixel art graphics, gruff Australian voice acting, and an interesting plot that clicks along at a rapid pace. It had some really funny character writing too, even in the demo, like the insufferable young reporter who's come to bother the homeless folks and try and craft their own story. I was also impressed with what it does with point-and-click mechanics. It's got a clever little wheel that directs you to whatever you need to see, like objects or interactables or people you can talk to, so it neatly sidesteps the point-and-click problem of pixel hunting. I think you can tell that this is a game that's been made with attention to detail and a lot of craft. It's a really good one. The developers describe it as a pulpy adventure thriller, and I'm a big fan of what they're doing. I hope this one finds its audience when it rolls into town on July 17th. That's The Drifter. Next up we have one of the more mysterious games coming out this month is Cipher Zero, and I've rarely seen a game with as little info as this one on its Steam page. It's described simply as a minimalist logic game in which the player experiments with glyphs to infer the rules. So this is going to be a game about pattern recognition, perhaps a little bit like the puzzle style of The Witness. That is of course the seminal puzzle game where you're faced by a world full of puzzle boards, each of which teaches you a rule of some kind. It's down to the player to figure out those rules, and in the most complex puzzles you need to bring all of them to bear at once. But Cipher Zero is true to its word as a minimalist game because the player only has two actions available. You can toggle the tiles on or off, and when you think that your machine is ready, when you think you've cracked the puzzle, you can click check your solution. I'm going to guess that people watching will know by now whether this is a game for you or not, but if you enjoyed Galaxy Brain games like Baba Is You and The Witness, then maybe it is. It's coming to Steam on the 22nd of July. That's Cipher Zero. One of the games that I'm personally looking forward to most this month is Wheel World, made by the two-person team over at Messhov Games. The game was formerly known as Ghost Bike, which I think is a better name to be honest, but it's a semi-open world cycling game with a cartoony art style in which you can explore, you can talk to people, you can do time trials and races, you can unlock new areas, and generally get to know the landscape, get to know the community, and work towards upgrading your bike into the dream machine you're going to need to finish the game. Your bike is kind of haunted, by the way, and it talks to you along the way, and all of this is really speaking my language. I love exploring mellow open worlds, I love games with fast flowing movement, and I like games based on vehicles, from Mad Max to Far Lone Sails. I love building up a vehicle throughout the playtime of a game, so I'm in the bag for this one generally. It's one of those games where I played the demo for just a couple of minutes and then stopped because I already knew it was for me. That's Wheel World, coming to Steam, PC and PlayStation 5 on the 23rd of the month. The very next day we get Ratatan on the 23rd. This is the spiritual successor to the early 2000s title Patapon. That game actually spawned a trilogy, but it's kind of been mothballed since then. Fans will be very pleased to see that Ratatan is coming out. It's made by several original members of the team that made that first game, and it's another chaotic multiplayer rhythm battle game, with a strong dose of Japanese weirdness in the music and in the art style, and running through the whole thing. This time the game has a roguelike focus, and it looks like you have to fight in rhythm to build up your limit gauge, and then when you reach the top you can get crazy big attacks that move across the entire screen. So it's like a rhythm game mixed with a roguelike, mixed with a management sim, and elements of strategy as well as you marshal your little troops in time and in battle. The developers have also said they took inspiration from the popular rhythm platforming game Hi-Fi Rush in the way that the whole world pulses in time with the music. A very cool looking game all round. It will get a release on all of the consoles eventually, probably this year, but it's launching into early access on PC on the 25th. That's Ratatan. There's one more game that I want to talk to you about. I'm not sure it is coming out this month. It's been slated in some place for a 22nd of July release, although the Steam page just says 2025 now, so maybe it was delayed or something. It's a game that I played in the last Next Fest, but I played it after I'd made my Next Fest roundup video, so it didn't make it in. I think this is the best place to talk about it instead, whether or not it's coming out this month. Either way, there is a 4-hour demo that you can play right now on Steam, and I'm very excited about it. The game is called Ball Pit, spelled somewhat confusingly with a silent X in the middle, so you'll be hearing a lot of Ball X Pit and Ball Times Pit and all sorts of pronunciations, but apparently it's just Ball Pit according to the trailer. And I think this game has got indie hit written all over it. It's a melding together of a few different ideas that we're all familiar with. It has elements of Breakout, Vampire Survivors, action roguelike games and village builders, and they all come together in a really coherent and interesting way here. I think it's a very smart move to make a game that feels both familiar and fresh at the same time, so you understand it but you still find it exciting. So in this game you move upwards through a Breakout style well, using twin stick mechanics to shoot bouncing balls at enemies. Enemies drop gems when they are killed, a la Vampire Survivors, which you have to walk around hoovering up, and the power-up system works similarly, so before long you've graduated from having a pea shooter with just 4 balls thrown at a time to having a screen-clearing arsenal of auto-firing weapons. But there's a twist on the Vampire Survivors formula here in that you can occasionally meld weapons together with really exciting results. For example, you get a vampiric bug that you can throw to inflict bleed and sap life from enemies. If you cross that with a fireball weapon, then it will become fiery, so it will be sapping people, bleeding people, and setting them on fire all at the same time. Then you can cross that with a laser for an even more crazy weapon, and it just escalates and escalates until you're poisoning everyone, burning everyone, making everyone bleed, using lasers that clear the screen and having balls bouncing everywhere all at the same time. And as the action gets more and more hectic, your power-ups get more and more satisfying. This seems to have some longevity too, with different builds, different characters, combos, levels and bosses. And you even get to see a lot of that stuff in the demo, which allows you to play the entire first level. I played the entire demo in 4 hours in pretty much one sitting, so I can testify to how addictive this one is. Keep an eye out for it. That's Bull Pit. And just before we get to the AA and AAA games that are coming out this month, I wanted to let you know that you can get extra stuff from Gaming in the Wild if you're enjoying this video. I don't talk about it much on the channel, but I'm also a journalist as well as making YouTube content, and I have a Patreon where I share writing with you, where I share thoughts about content creation with you, and where I share behind the scenes stuff about making videos, podcasts, and texts with you. So if you're interested in some content creation, shop talk, in behind the scenes making of material, in extra game content, and in joining our wonderful Discord community, which I really do think is the best place on the internet to talk about video games, then you're welcome to hop in. It's only $1 a month or more if you can afford it, and every new patron helps me to make a living out of the content creation that I do for you all, like this exact video. There is a link on the screen now if you would like to join in, and I would like to say a big thank you to new members Michael, William, Scattershot, William and EJ, and people who join at the top tier get a shout out on every single video, so thanks very much to boss tier patrons Essie Woods, King Champ and Shy Guy. Thanks very much to you as well if that's something you would consider. And with all of that said, let's get on with the video and talk about the AA and AAA games coming out in July of 2025. So moving on to the AA and AAA games that are coming out in July, there are some really interesting ones. In fact, there are some that I almost put into the indie section before I clocked that the publisher was in fact AA or AAA. One of those games is Shadow Labyrinth, which looks a bit like an indie game at first glance. It's side-on, it's an action game with Metroidvania elements, but it's actually coming out via Bandai Namco. It's a weird action platformer that mixes Castlevania vibes with Pac-Man of all things, but a very dark version of Pac-Man. This game involves consuming your enemies to change shape and gain power and exploring a ravaged alien world. You can also apparently at some point morph into a giant Pac-Man called Puck, who is your kind of spiritual guide or something. This game is just bonkers. It's a really crazy idea, really crazy format, and that's enough to get me interested. I'll be playing it for sure. That's Shadow Labyrinth coming out on the 17th. But one game that I think none of us could possibly mistake for an indie game is Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think all Switch 2 owners will pretty much be jumping onto this one to play it on their shiny new console. And Donkey Kong has been one of the lesser used Nintendo characters in a big budget game of his own for quite a while now. It's kind of crazy that Princess Peach and Kirby got their own shiny new games before Donkey Kong, but this one is Donkey Kong coming back in force. We've been picking up hints that the people who worked on this game are in Nintendo's Tokyo office and it's the team that was maybe behind Mario Odyssey, so it could be the next big full-fat Nintendo game. It's a 3D platformer with an interesting twist. Playing as Kong, you can use your fists to smash through the landscapes of big 3D platforming levels. This allows you to basically dig and wreck and propulsively move through levels, uncovering secrets, finding treasure, making tunnels. It's a very kinetic game, and I'm happy to see that the previews have been coming in red hot. That's Donkey Kong Bonanza on Switch 2 on the 17th. Souls-like fans have had no shortage of things to play lately. It seems to be the genre that has taken over all of AAA development, and Wu Chang Fallen Feathers is the latest title coming out in that genre. It's a very clearly Elden Ring-inspired action RPG, reportedly being made by a team of 100 people out in China. It's a dark fantasy Souls-like set in the Ming Dynasty. It has intense-looking combat and seems to have taken its cues from Elden Ring art style-wise, with tall, skinny, long-sworded enemies and giant moons crashing into Earth and all of that sort of epic, gothic fantasy stuff. That said, we are absolutely awash with Souls-like at the moment, so it's hard to say which ones will cut through. I'll be watching the reviews with interest when Wu Chang Fallen Feathers drops on the 24th. We also get Wild Hearts S. This is a port that is coming to Switch 2 on the 25th of the month. This game came out a couple of years ago on PlayStation 5 and Xbox. I played it at the time and I really liked it actually. It's a Monster Hunter-like, and the monsters in this game are giant versions of real-world creatures, so you'll be facing off against a kind of feral, nature-infected squirrel or a boar, and they kind of square the circle of it being unethical to hunt megafauna like the trophy hunters of the real world by saying that they are impinging on human territory, taking out villages, and they've got gone wild and that kind of thing. The game has 4-person multiplayer and a good campaign that I enjoyed a lot, and it incorporated building structures mid-battle in a really interesting way, like a bulwark that a charging enemy can run into to get stunned. You can then stand on top of it and do a very powerful drop attack or plant a hammer that will hit them while they're down. So I really liked the game, but it had a lukewarm reception when it came out. However, the servers are still on. It's hit Game Pass since then, and now it's going to get another lease of life on the Switch too. It's a bit rough around the edges technically, so I'm quite curious to see what kind of shape it's in, but there's definitely a good game in there somewhere. That's Wild Hearts S dropping on Switch 2 on the 25th of the month. And the final game that I'm going to talk about is No Sleep for Kaname Date, coming out from Spike Chunsoft. This is a new game set in the AI Somnium Files universe. It's a missing person case set in a space station. You'll play through escape rooms and puzzle sections and gather information that will help you get clues and solve your case. So if you like visual novels that have a little bit of extra gameplay folded into them, this could be one for you. It looks intriguing. That's No Sleep for Kaname Date, coming out on Steam and Switch on the 25th of the month. That's it for this video, so give me a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed it. See you on the next one, and bye-bye for now.